obviously this is almost entirely exclusively a male experience. Although, if a woman is drunk enough, like, it is not worth it. Well, maybe it is. Have you been? I don't think I would like it. I don't think it's legal, technically, but it's just done a lot. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it is. I don't think it's legal. So today we are going to check out some things Americans say that foreigners should never do in the United States. Actually, it's not specifically foreigners, it's just what should you never do in the United States, and this comes from Reddit. I enjoy this because a lot of times I'm kind of telling you guys my thoughts on my observations in the States, and sometimes it's interesting to just see what you guys have to say. In case you didn't know, I'm Diane, I'm from Ireland, and I like being a foreigner traveling tourist. There may be a trip coming up soon, depending on whether I can get enough moolah together. Check out patreon.com/Diane'S.
Ew, I legitimately think these plug segues are getting worse. If she doesn't get better at them, I'm gonna have to start because desperate times call for desperate measures.
Okay, so what should you never do in the United States? Number 1, don't ever get a payday loan. What's a payday loan? A payday loan is a relatively small amount of money lent at a high rate of interest on the agreement that it will be repaid when the borrower receives their next wages. Okay, so like if you borrowed $20, you would have to pay back like $23. Okay, somebody here says people end up rolling them over every week for like $20 to $50 fee, while the juice just keeps running. By the time you pay down a simple $500 loan, it comes out to something insane like a 750% interest rate over the course of a year. Oh my gosh, that does seem like a silly thing to do. Don't do that. Are payday loans in Europe? I'm sure they are. Or they're just like Anto down the street will lend you some money for a few bucks on the top. And then if you don't pay Anto back, he's going to come and break your legs. Maybe that's how we do it. Maybe there's a more formal way in Ireland, but that's just a thought. Okay, number 2. Do not go to Times Square on New Year's. The experience is so not worth it. It's romanticized for some reason. That is something I would not want to do. Oh my God. I do not like crowds of people, number 1. But number 2, I saw a video about it last year and literally people were peeing on themselves. Because if they move, they'll lose their spot. They were wearing adult nappies, or diapers as you call them. Like, it is not worth it. Well, maybe it is. Have you been? I don't think I would like it. You should never get out of the vehicle during a traffic stop. I did not know this. Here in Australia, we are perfectly okay to get out of the vehicle unless the cop says otherwise. That is interesting. There is a very different vibe to the police in America than there is in... Well, for example, I'm from Ireland and I'm living in Spain, and those two types of police are very different to one another. So, for example, in Ireland, police, the Gardaí, are like generally quite friendly. So they have actually a thing, I think, in policy that you're not allowed to be a police officer in the town where you grew up. That used to be a thing. I don't know if it's like still a thing. But yeah, we're kind of informal. So you don't get out of the car. That makes sense because, I mean, we do not have the gun element. So safety first. The police in Spain, however, are very different. They are scary. They also have guns. Or pew-pews. Are we allowed to say guns on YouTube now? I think we are. But you do not mess with the Guardia Civil. You do not mess with the Spanish police. Like, I have heard stories of like people literally just being put in a room and having the crap beaten out of them for being cheeky to the police. You don't mess with them. You don't. Okay, the next one is walk onto someone's property without permission or knowing the owner. It's cool in many places around the world to be able to go wandering through the countryside. It is not cool in the US. Well, I mean, again, that's for the same reason, right? Like, there are a lot more chances, just due to the amount of people over there, of ending up in a dangerous situation. Like, the chances are in Ireland, it's going to be somebody knows, but just by sheer capacity of people, it's going to be more dangerous to do that in the US. But what do door-to-door salespeople do? Like, you have Avon ladies, right? Like, what do they do? That must be scary. And I've seen like Amazon drivers getting like nearly eaten up by dogs on people's Ring doorbell cameras. Leave your sleeping infant or child in a vehicle. This is fairly common in some places across the pond, but it is definitely not legal in the US. I don't think it is legal anywhere as far as I know. I know in parts of Norway, is it? I think it's Norway. They often leave prams outside of shops and things. Or like at nighttime, they'll leave the pram outside because the cold air helps the baby go to sleep. But it's obviously, again, a different thing because it's a safer place with a lot less people. I don't think there's ever been an instance of like a child being kidnapped from that. But as far as I am aware, you do not leave a child, an infant, or an animal in a car anywhere in Europe. Like maybe in other continents that's allowed, but it is not allowed here, like for the same reasons. Heat, danger. Call a mixed person colored. It doesn't mean the same thing as it does in South/East Africa. Actually, I saw this on TikTok recently, and it was very interesting because somebody said, referring to a black person as colored, and they were South African, and people were going absolutely mad at them. And it was like, lads, there are different ways of respecting other cultures in different parts of the world. Like, colored is the correct terminology used in South Africa to be respectful, whereas in Ireland, black person is the right way to say it. Somebody corrected me once in Ireland that I called my friend. I was like, oh, well, she's like, her family are black. And my other friend was like, African American. I was like, no, they're black. She's neither been to Africa nor America. She's an Irish black person. That is a thing. So yeah, like, colored is like you cannot say that in America. Like, people will take great offense. I think the correct terminology now in America is person of color, right? Like, that's the right respectful thing to say if you need to make reference to it. Am I correct? Let me know. Something you should never do in the United States is think that you can pee in an empty alley on your way home from a bar. A surprisingly large percentage of European acquaintances have had to great experience of spending a few hours, early morning hours in the drunk... Somebody can't type. This is literally how they wrote it. We can discern what they mean. Hours in the drunk tank in various American cities because it's really not that big of a deal in most of Europe. Right, obviously this is almost entirely exclusively a male experience, although if a woman is drunk enough. But yeah, a lot of times, like, I will be out and there will be lads and they will like go off and go down an alley. They'll be like, excuse me, and they'll go just pee. And I think if the police caught you doing it, you would certainly be in trouble, but also like, go on. In Ireland, it would be like, go on. I didn't know it was that frowned upon in America, obviously not having had that experience myself.
She's lying.
But yeah, very, very, very interesting. Men in Europe do that often. Try and bribe a police officer. So, what I would say about that is I have heard from some sources, people I know, in Spain, that you should always carry some cash on you in case you are pulled over by a police officer. And I was like, what? So apparently the way they do it here is they'll be like, you can either fill out this form and then go pay a €200 fine, or you can pay us cash right now of €100. And that's like the informal way of being like, I'm going to pocket the €100 and you're not going to get a record, or, you know, you can. And so in most cases, like, people are like, all right, I'll just pay the cash then. But like, that's awful. It really is awful. I'm guessing from this, you don't do it in America. Oh, it says here in Germany, this is actually legal and works for minor offenses. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same in Poland. I don't think it's legal, technically, but it's just done a lot. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is. I don't think it's legal. Next up, don't try to cheat the IRS. They will F your life into oblivion. The IRS is the tax people? Internal Revenue Service. Like, well, that's just generally a thing internationally. Although, again, I see it in some countries in Europe more than others. I think that's global. Like, if they catch you, you're going to get in trouble. So, unfortunately, much as it is very annoying, you have to pay your tax. But in America, as I understand it, like, it's all, you have to do it yourself and work out how much you owe them yourself. For most of my peers who work for like companies and things, it's like very automatic. I, as an independent person, have to work it out with my accountant myself. But yeah, pay your tax. That's not an exclusively US thing. Unless like there's some level of it I'm not appreciating, let me know. Don't illegally use a disabled person parking spot or pass a school bus with its stop sign out. Okay, those are two different things. So The disabled thing, well, that's like morally wrong as well as illegal, right? Like, again, that's kind of everywhere. Yeah, you're not allowed to do that here either, or Ireland, or anywhere as far as I know. And passing a school bus, I think that might be an American thing. I think you are allowed to pass a school bus in Europe. Like, you need to be careful, obviously. Go to Florida for the beaches and forget about the wildlife. Ooh, we covered that in a video recently. I learned about like dangerous animals that lurk in people's backyards. And there really are so many for you guys to think about. And like a lot of people in comments said like, I've never encountered any of these animals in my life. And it's very rare that you would encounter them. But nonetheless, like in Florida, like the alligator, like there are alligators everywhere. Somebody made a joke in the comments of that video. I do read the comments in the First Hour Club, by the way. So be sure to turn on your notifications. But they said, how do you know if there's an alligator in the water in Florida? Put your hand in the water. If it's wet, there's an alligator. So, okay, let's do 2 more. Cut in line. This is such a thing. I've been in countries, for example, Spain, where lines/queues are more of a vague suggestion of who goes first. This is not true if you cut a line in the US. Cutting in a line in the US can literally lead to violence. I am with you, US. Lines in Spain are so annoying. People do not follow lines. Well, like respectful people do, but like you do occasionally bump into people who have absolutely no respect for the line, and more so than ever in the airport. Like people will literally walk up beside you and just cut in front of you. Like it becomes a stressful, tense situation. I've had it happen in a supermarket. And I will just be like, I was ahead of you. And they're like, oh, like I'm saying something alien. Like, no, I've been here longer than you. Obviously, if it's somebody who has like 2 items and I have like 20, I'm gonna let them go first. Always do that. That's just a nice thing to do. Or like an elderly person, if they look frail, that's when you have to be careful with, because some people who are older will not take kindly to you offering them a seat and stuff sometimes. Like sometimes it's a bit of an insult. So for me, I go with the like, does this person look frail? Ooh, I don't know if I can say that word here. It's the C word. It's considered a very vulgar word here that would be highly inappropriate to say casually. Yeah, in Ireland, certain types of people throw this word around a lot. And I mean that like country people more so say that word very casually a lot. It wasn't a word I grew up saying or any of my peers. Especially became like a cool thing for lads to say, I'd say in the last 10 years. And I think it might come from the British influence, like across the pond, because they say it very casually a lot. I don't know, as a put down, it's kind of a stupid one because they're the strongest thing in the world. Like, you can give them a hammering. Am I being vulgar?
Most distasteful.
But like they birth babies. It's kind of a compliment if you're called a
Oops.
Anyway, a lot of that last point will be very BP. Oh, also, like fanny in Ireland is a lady's part of her private anatomy, whereas in America it's just a bum. So yeah, words are fun. Shout out today to a couple of patrons.
Our first shout out today comes from Captain Dan, and he wants everybody to remember Fire Prevention Week coming up October 6th to 12th. Be sure to shake up your fire extinguishers, check your smoke alarms, and send a text to your family and friends and remind them to do the same. What a great message, Dan. Thanks, we all forget to do that. Our second shout out comes from Brian Ediger, who wants to shout out all of our furry friends for keeping us sane in this crazy world. That's the truth. Brian says it's wonderful coming home to a loving family member every day. Velvet always greets him at the door. Oh, look at the velvet. Thank you so much, Brian. And last but certainly not least, our shout out comes from Trudes in honor of her mom, who she sadly lost recently. She says, shout out to all the moms and mom types. Thank you for all the love and support you've given us over the years. Thank you so much, Trudes, and thanks to all the momsies.
That's it for today. See you on the other side. Bye.